Good morning, everyone. I'm Paulina Menem, EU Assistant Project at Finova Foundation. I'm thrilled to announce that I'm going to be your moderator for today's event. For the beginning, we want to hear some words from Tatiana. So I give you the floor.
Thank you, Paulina, and thank you for inviting. I'm the member of the European Economic and Social Committee, where you are now. And maybe some of you already went to another side of the road, to the main building, and you were redirected then to come to this, which is old building. Actually, this building is historical building. And a few years ago, the Commission wanted to rebuild it, build something, ruin this, and build something different, but we protected it, so we're happy. We have now a beautiful room here. And from the one side, it's linked to the Committee of the Regions. Probably you also know what this Committee of the Regions stands for. And from the other side, there is, through the bridges, we can enter also the Parliament directly. So it's a good location, and it's not accidental location, because we are here to provide opinions on, to the Commission, to the Parliament, and to the Council on issues which are in the European Treaty, actually all the topics. So it's from Arctic to space, also it's international affairs, and definitely skills, and many, many other things. So we are 329 members, and we have 3 groups. First group is employers group, the second is trade union groups, and the third group is of civil society, so-called various interest group. And there we have women, youth, researchers, farmers, consumers, elderly people organizations. So we have a variety of representatives there. So what is opinion? Opinion is something which is requested by the Council, by the Parliament, or by the Commission, also by the presidency country. Now, for instance, we received a request for exploratory opinions from Poland, and currently are preparing for Poland the opinions. A study group of the opinion is something like 12 people. There is rapporteur, there is president of the study group meeting, and there are proportionally the members in the opinion. So you can read our opinions. We also speak a lot about skills. I didn't actually introduce myself. I'm Tatiana Pavrauskina. I'm coming from trade union group, and I'm Lithuanian. And Lithuania is the Baltic country up, because after when I give things like saying I'm from Lithuania, they're coming, you're from Slovenia. No, not Slovenia, it's Lithuania, it's Baltic state, and we have 9 members in the committee from my country. Of course, composition is 333, and doesn't matter what is the size of the country or delegation, we have here equal rights and equal opportunities. So I'm really happy to welcome you here in this house, and I know that there will be another event also in November. So please come, and let's share the ideas. And I encourage you just to read the opinions linked to skills, to education, to digital transformation, especially the area where you are interested. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have packed an agenda full of interesting discussion on AI, digital development, education, and the future of work. All topics that are shaping our society. So our format for today will be a relaxing roundtable, where I'm going to start with a question, and then we are going to discuss on that topic. We are also going to present some projects, and maybe we can inspire other perspectives from the public. So to keep the energy up, we'll dive into risk and ethical governance in the digital age. We'll explore how to balance innovation with ethical responsibilities. It's a complex topic, right? But no worries, we are lucky to have a panelist full of experts. We will count with Sonia Perez Romero, who is on my left Head of Unit in charge of AI Act at the European Data Protection Supervisor Secretariat. We also come with the participation of Lorena Jaume Palací. She is online, founder and executive director of the Ethical Tech Society. Joanne Sliwa, senior scientist at NATO Communication and Information Agency. And Karina Kaunes, who is executive director of the Center for AI and Digital Policies Europe. I'll ask the first question to get the ball rolling, and who feels able to answer first, I will give you the floor and we can exchange some idea and move to other questions. So the first question that I have is, how can we ensure that AI governance framework effectively balance innovation with the protection of fundamental rights? Who wants to start to talk? Maybe Sonia? Okay.
Since we are, is it on? Yes. Since we are at the EDPS, both an agency for fundamental rights and also appointed now Market Surveillance Authority for the AI Act, I think it's my duty to take the word here. I will, for you to understand what the EDPS does, I will explain a little bit where we come in the AI Act and what we do. So as you know, the AI Act came into force on the 1st of August 2024, although it has a 2-year transitional period. And the governance for the AI Act is basically a subdivision of AI national competent authorities that will be then coordinated by the AI office here in Brussels. And this AI office comes with an AI board, which is very important because it's kind of the plenary of all national authorities. As the EDPS, the European Data Protection Supervisor, we are also part of the AI board, because in the AI Act, the EDPS has been appointed the supervisor for artificial intelligence systems in the European Union institutions, agencies, and bodies. That makes us a national regulator for the ecosystem of institutions. So in this framework, we are now building our capacities, and indeed we are pretty much encountered with this balance of innovation and the protection of fundamental rights. Much more after the famous Draghi report, where it has been pretty blunt said that indeed innovation could be maybe impaired by data protection. We don't believe this is the case. And indeed, we are the living example that both data protection as a fundamental right and AI supervision can be done together. How can we strike this balance? Well, the first thing that we can do is to prioritize investment in high-quality research. Of course, the more money we put into that, the more fundamental rights we will have. So the same that we're pooling resources for developing the best computing capacities, the best AI systems, there should also be some investment on high-quality research that would drive innovation and would create solutions respecting fundamental rights. The second thing that we could do on that is encouraging the development of new technical solutions that allow flexible privacy-preserving compliance mechanisms. And this is indeed something that academia is already exploring. They are exploring how large language models, which pool a lot of personal data among other information, can use privacy-preserving techniques to ensure that the outcome of those large language models is respectful with personal data. AI governance frameworks should be developed closely with stakeholders coming from all fields. And this is something that the AI Office has done very well. I don't know if you've heard, the AI Office is now pushing the drafting of the Code of Practice for General Purpose AI. This Code of Practice will be then adopted by the AI Board, and it will become binding for the industry. In this drafting of the Code of Practice, we have 1,000 stakeholders that will be divided into 4 working groups to make sure that the code of practice really takes into account the concerns of the industry, but also academia, but also institutions like the EDPS. So this, I believe, is one of the things that can make an effective balance in innovation and fundamental rights. And the last point, and then I will also pass the word to my colleagues, the AI Act strikes a balance by relying on standards rather than driving into specific obligations. I believe that the standards will also be very important for the industry to be able to comply with the AI Act. Instead of having a specific program for each one of the companies with each one of the particularities, the building of standards is a key element. And it's so key that at the core of the AI board, one of the first subgroups that we will be working on is the subgroup on standards. So I invite you to read more about that and about the compliance of the AI Act with the standards, because that will be something that will really be an enabler for innovation at the same time that respecting fundamental rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, maybe we can hear about Lorena Jean-Palassy's point of view, that she worked many years in the public sector and also in the digital development. Give you the floor, she's online. One second. We don't hear, just 1 second, we are fixing it. Now? No. ¿Cómo? Okay, let's move on. Next, I'm gonna do other questions to you, but I think that you already talked a lot of things about this topic. But what are the next challenges that the European Union foresee in this framework?
Sure, without any intent of monopolizing the conversation. But, well, let me tell you a little bit more of what's going on and what are the next steps in the AI Act. As I just mentioned, the AI board has been established. We had our first meeting on the 10th of September, and there we share a few of the concerns. The next step is really to appoint at national level the competent national authorities that will be in charge of artificial intelligence. Why is this a challenge? Well, we have 27 member states, and each one has a different internal division. For example, I am Spanish, and in Spain, we have established an independent agency for artificial intelligence. However, this is not the case, for example, in the Netherlands. The Netherlands has attributed that role to their data protection authority, in the same vein that the European administration gave it to the EDPS. So they are going to enforce both fundamental rights and be supervising artificial intelligence. There are, however, more systems of governance at national level. There are countries that have one single entry point for all AI matters coming from the AI Act, that then divide the competence or distribute among the different ministries or agencies. And there is also another system of multi-entry for the matters under the AI Act that is then coordinated at a central level. So as you see, multi-entry point, single entry point, independent authority for AI, and dual data protection and artificial intelligence competence. All these models across the European Union will then need to come together to the AI board and agree on the guidelines and agree on the next implementing rules that will be roll out at EU level. That coordination is really something very, very interesting to follow because it will show that at European level we are able to talk together and to have a regulation that works the same across all countries. Another challenge is the technicality of the AI Act. We have a law, but now we need to implement it. In order to implement it, we need more clarifications and more guidance in different groups. So the first challenge for the AI board is to constitute its subgroups and to talk about things like the standards, AI sandboxes, prohibitions. We cannot forget that the first obligations kicking as soon as 1st of February 2025, in which prohibited practice for artificial intelligence systems will enter into force. So that is also something that goes very quickly, whereas normally the public administration, be it European or national level, might not go that fast in building its capacities. We are finding difficulties in obtaining experts that will work on these topics because, of course, we need to compete with private sector, we need to compete with Meta, with Google, with very strong companies that pay a lot of money, whereas the public administration, we have the resources that we have. It's not a taboo that private sector will always be at a higher rate of salaries. So that's another challenge for us while we build the governance in the AI board, to build our own capacities, our own people. We are talking today about skills on AI. Well, there is a real need for upskilling the people in the public administration, and there's a real need also for the citizens to understand that the future path will need a lot of these experts on AI, because that's the future.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to give the floor to Joanna. I want to asking about these challenges from a NATO point of view, and also I want to know about the cybersecurity challenges today, how is dealing the international environment.
Yeah, from the NATO perspective, the challenges that we see in terms of implementation of the AI Act. So the countries that are in the European Union and NATO are most of them are the same. So we see that the fostering of innovation in this sector will positively influence the capabilities that will be implemented by the nations, and that will influence also positively the creation of new capabilities for NATO countries. However, the requirements that are posed to the countries are quite harsh. So we would like also to the Commission to create clear guidance on how the requirements will be met, and to create also systematic solutions on how these requirements are to be met, and to also provide some solutions that will enforce research in the area of security. And NATO also has AI strategy, that one of the principles of responsible AI application that we focus on is explainability. what is important in this area is that we need to trust the models and solutions that we employ. And this is not only the AI systems that are used on a daily basis by people, but these are operational solutions that can be used by the operational people in the field, not only in terms of situation awareness, early warning, but also in other fields of operation. So this is very important that this area is enforced by the solutions. One of the other areas that we need to focus on is in terms of security, is integrity of the data sets to prevent from poisoning attacks. And that was also mentioned, privacy preserving computing that can make computation and processing of the data that is sensitive available for the wider audience. So these elements are very important and should be taken into account from our perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will link the NATO with the cybersecurity and what are the pressing challenges around like cybersecurity, biometric and AI. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
So in terms of cybersecurity within the AI area, so all the challenges related to the poisoning and evasion attacks, these are the current threats that we are focused on, and detection and being able to identify or to make the data sets also to prevent integrity of the data sets that we base our models. So this is one of the main focus of the research. And in terms of biometrics, NATO directives do not recommend in their operational systems using biometrics. However, like this is of course different on different levels of classification, but the current security threats that we are facing and challenges mainly based on.
Now it's working. Okay, let's finish the idea.
Mainly are focused on insider threats, and we are considering dynamic threat landscape with defenses, layered defenses, going towards zero trust architecture direction.
Thank you very much. Now I will give the floor to Lorena.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can do. We do.
Great. So what do you want me exactly to address? Start by the first initial question, just jump into the conversation.
Yes. We want to hear from your organization point of view.
Okay, so I think that the first thing to have a honest conversation is to first address what our regulations are about. And on the first place, there are two different dimensions that I think needs to be addressed. The first is the fact that the whole AI Act regulation is based on the Article 114 of the Treaty Functioning of the EU, which is a market law regulation. So the AI Act, from a legal perspective, is a piece of market regulation, which means that this is not about human rights or balancing human rights. It's about competitiveness. It's about how to regulate from a market perspective within the EU. And that's the main point, because if we want to address this, we are going to have some trouble. If we want to address the issue of human rights, we're going to have some trouble addressing it through market regulation. We are going to need other pieces of regulation that belong to a space where partially the European Union does not have a competence for. So I think that there's this tension from a legal perspective that we need to address if we really mean to balance the conflict between market and human rights. That's the first place. The second thing that I think it's important to address is this idea of innovation that is linked with AI. And I think there's a difference between invention and innovation. And AI is an invention, the same way as in the internet is an invention. But the fact that you can digitalize everything doesn't mean that you have created an innovation, because you can very well and very much digitalize all processes. And with that, you just have only transposed all forms of doing things into the digital space or context, and not created really an innovation. And right now, the whole conversation is about a very contradictory idea of innovation, because innovation implies that you are changing a system. It implies that you are creating a solution for a specific conflict, and right now, or for a specific challenge. And right now, what we are doing is saying, okay, we have AI, how can we use it? So it's somehow the other way around. We have something and we don't know what it's good for, which is actually the contrary of the historical and social idea of innovation. And the fact that AI, and I think this is the third part that I would like to address as well, because I think we have to be honest in this in this discussion to have a real conversation, is the fact that AI is just not simply something abstract, something that cannot be touched because it's somehow a software system. It has a very heavy material side. And when we talk about a very heavy material side, we talk about a lot of drink water that is needed to cool down the data centers, a lot of drink water, so much data, so much water that right now in the Netherlands, they have a problem with water supply because of the data centers. Right now, in the place where I live in Brandenburg, we cannot build a school because the data centers and the gigafactory from Tesla and other lithium battery factories over here are gathering the whole water supply. So it cannot be warranted for this school to be built and that they are going to get water. So the situation is not in a future term that that we are having a technology that is already putting us on the verge of discussing how do we prioritize something as essential as water for drinking and for consuming, for public health, for many other things. But it's also about electricity and our infrastructures that are not able to cope with the whole electricity demand of this technology. And it's also about raw materials. And if we are honest about this conversation, there's only two materials within the European Union, which are in France, and strontium and hafnium. Those are the two from over 50 critical raw materials that we need to construct these technologies, only 2 countries provide less than half of our demand, of our need for these critical raw materials are produced within the European Union. All other materials are outside of this continent. And if we start putting more and more in AI everywhere, we're going to have a material, physical problem because we don't have enough critical raw materials reserves from some critical raw materials for the whole supply, for the whole demand. It's just as simple as that. We just don't have it. Some materials are not recyclable. We cannot recycle them. The resources are already at the edge. Many of those raw materials are needed also for other things. What this implies also is an ecological impact that goes beyond what is legitimate. So if we think of innovation, we might want, instead of putting AI everywhere, think about how about creating an app that works on 2G instead of 5Gs, because we have some regions here that are not internet stable and cannot use AI because they don't have the infrastructure for AI. So that part needs to be addressed as well. And the last point that I want to make that is really worrying me is the fact that most of the AI development that we're doing right now in the European Union has nothing to do with human rights, but it goes against human rights. We are making development and research on technologies, and it's not coincidence that a representative from the NATO is sitting here, and it's no coincidence that Thierry Breton 2 years ago in his speech explained that this is about leading the digital and the military decade, and putting in connection both the digital era with critical raw materials and the military. And I think we need to address the technologies that we're creating are killing people, are being used to make decisions that buy in as a consequence to have mass errors at scale. Because this is the thing with AI technologies. If we use this technology, there's never 100%. There's always a margin of error. But the thing with this margin of error when we talk about these technologies is because they are technologies of scale, that the errors do not happen to a few ones, but they happen to collectives. They happen to many thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, as we are seeing with the technologies of AI that are being deployed, for instance, in Palestine. So I think that there's a lot of conversations that we need to be more honest about it. And we need to address first the fact that we have not even talked about the legitimacy of many of the tools that we are legitimating by naturalizing them through the AI Act and many other acts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's so interesting how AI can impact in society, environment. When we talk about climate change, we also talk about human rights. So now I want to give the floor to Karin Kaunes to talk a little bit about this, and maybe she can share like an experience or a challenge that her organization analyzed about elections and how is the combating information manipulation generated by AI. I give you the floor, Karin.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me? Yes, it seems so. So thank you very much, Finova, for the invitation. I'm Karin Kaunes. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for AI and Digital Policy Europe. And our global organization, the Center for AI and Digital Policy, has also developed an AI and Democratic Values Index, which assesses the public policies in the field of AI of 80 countries. So basically, we have mapped what is going on with regard to legislation all over the world and the current issues that we are witnessing with regard to protection of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. I must also say that I'm the editor-in-chief of the European Law Journal. It's a law journal, so I would like to also integrate remarks to what has just been said or what other speaker said. And again, I apologize for not being there today. It's just that it's very difficult to juggle with different commitments, and teleportation has not been invented yet, despite a lot of technological innovation. So about the fact that so totally agree with what you just said about sustainability. And it's linked to discussion at UN level, actually, with regard to sustainable development. And you mentioned issues with regard to water and data centers in the Netherlands, but we know that there are some similar issues also in Spain, where hot temperatures also cause problems. So, so we know that this is an issue. With regard to fundamental rights, here I wouldn't totally agree with you, and I'm going to tell you why. And it's linked actually to EU law, since you're bringing the legal perspective. Any market regulation should respect the treaties, because the treaties have constitutional value. So any legislation should be interpreted according to the treaties and to the Charter of the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights. And the same rights should be upheld, should be ensured online and offline. Not only that, but it is not because the core legal basis of a legislation is market regulation that it is just about market regulation. This comes from the case law of the Court of Justice. And last but not least, I could easily mention how we developed the internal market in the EU, and the whole case law of the Court of Justice is about free movement of goods, services, and capitals and persons, and it's all about balancing different rights. So in the history of legislation, or even how the EU has conceived a market regulation, fundamental rights have always been embedded in them. So here I would disagree with that. As for the historical and social idea of innovation, well, in Europe, we have this notion from centuries of progress based on enlightenments, which means that progress should be for the good of all. So if I looked at the questions that has been asked to us, it shows which is balance between innovation and the protection of human rights, fundamental rights. Actually, I don't think this is really the question. Why? Because simply speaking, the issue is rather how to address risks to fundamental rights, democracy, and the rule of law from the inception, so that true innovation and the opportunities and promises of AI can be truly unleashed. I can here cite, for example, at global level, because this is a global issue. It's not just an EU issue, and we need to see how the EU approach fits into the global framework ecosystem. UNESCO, which has issued the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of AI, signed by 193 countries in the world, commented on the last G20 ministerial declaration on digital inclusion for all. And what it says is the following: safe, secure, and trustworthy AI, when applied in a transparent, ethical, responsible, and reliable manner, may act as a catalyst for achieving economic growth and inclusive sustainable development within its three dimensions: social, economic, and environmental. So if we follow your approach that yes, we have to consider impact on environment, we also have to consider impact on fundamental rights, and we have to consider this AI technology in its global ecosystems with all its dimensions. And the best way to address the current issue is to look at fundamental rights protection or sustainability also by design. Only if we address the threat to fundamental rights, social and environmental rights, can AI innovation and power truly unleash for the good of all. So what do we need in that? I think it is clear that we need clear guardrails and red lines. This is what the EU Act has been trying to do, because we have prohibited practice, which, by the way, should enter into force in February. So it will be a key point to take into consideration. We have to foster transparency and meaningful participation. And here I would like to come back to what the EDPS speaker said about this. So yes, I think we can commend the Commission for its approach regarding the JPI Code of Practice. So just to rewind a bit, in the EU Act, we have actually a double legal regime. What is this? We have one for high-risk AI system, which should be, the provisions regarding risk management should be implemented through standardization. And with regard to okay, I stop at that. And the second point is that we have another legal regime with regard general purpose AI models. And for these general purpose AI models, we have currently the drafting of a general purpose AI code of practice. So the implementation is not the same. For high-risk AI system, it's through standardization. For general purpose AI model, it is through this JPI code of practice, okay? Standardization, we know since 30 years of practice of standardization in the EU that the process does not allow a fair or balanced representation of interest. It is led by industry. It has always been industry. And for this, in the field of AI, it is led by big tech. You can read studies from Hans Miklix, for example. It is very well known. So I think the initiative of the Commission to have another process put into place with regard to JPI model through this drafting of the JPI Code of Practice is very interesting, because indeed it is supposed to be more open to other stakeholders. However, I would like to raise some concerns here. Why? Because we know that answer to the consultations that the AI Office, the Commission, has run over the summer was even in terms of representation. But it is now known that as far as the participation in the drafting of the JPI Code of Practice is concerned, there is only 11% of participants which are civil society organizations and right holders. Only 11% of them. And if you look at the chairs and vice chairs of the plenaries which will take care of drafting the JPI Code of Practice, you see that there is a strong UK, US, and Canada axis. There is in the chairs and vice chair no European lawyers or what you want, EU experts in data protection. There is no expert in AI and fundamental rights from a European perspective, and this is very worrying. Another key issue with the drafting of the JPI Code of Practice actually is that JPI providers will have workshops with the chairs of the different working groups for the drafting of the JPI Code of Practice before each iteration of a draft. This means that basically that JPI providers are put into a preferential position. Let's put it this way. CADP Europe has been selected to participate in the draft.
We are running out of time, so if you can do like a closing.
So what I would say here is that there are issues in this regard. I think that we also need a strong data protection regime. Liability and accountability would be very important, and independent oversight as well. I think that for independent oversight, the position of the National Market Surveillance Authority would be very important, and we need independent national market surveillance authorities. We already know that the Spanish one, is not independent, the one that has been designated. We don't know about France, we don't know about Italy, and we will see with other countries. And I think that we have a good example, I will finish on that. We have a good example with data protection impact assessments, which have common features with the human rights impact assessments, which you find into the various positions of the EU Act with regard to risk management. Both approaches are ex ante, both approaches are rights-based, both approaches promote an iterative structure. So what I mean is that the future will be into the integration of the data protection impact assessments that already exist with the human rights, the various human rights impact assessments, which are at the heart of the EU AI Act. We'll stop at that. I just wanted to address the other issues because it seems that you've already been through the various questions, but I tried to add points of discussion regarding what the others said.
It was amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that the panelists left many interesting insights on the topic. We still are facing many challenges in the future. But now I would like to introduce an innovative project that is helping to shape the digital space. And it's the reason that brought us here to this event. So I want to give the floor to Oscar Belmonte. Oscar Belmonte is Senior Lecturer, Department of Computer Languages and Systems in John First University.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much for the opportunity to show our work. So I would like to show you some slides, if we can. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the acronym of the project is Live AI, making adults education lively through artificial intelligence. And these are the partners in the organization. The first one is the University Jaume I. I belong to that university. The second one is Finnova from Belgium. The third one is eProject Consult from Italy, Connectable from Ireland, FECOFERT from Switzerland, and finally UBTech from Greece. The duration of the project the project will last 24 months, 2 years, and the budget for the project is 250,000 euros. So there are three main objectives of the project. The first one is to enhance institutional commitment to the implementation of EU guidelines on ethics in AI. So this is the main topic of this session. Second one is to create an open educational resources. I will show you some of the project results briefly, and that provide and validate competencies in the field of the data and AI. And finally, the third objective is to promote the ethical use of data in education at all levels. So we have produced some materials, because the final objective of the project is not teach about artificial intelligence, is to take profit of artificial intelligence in the learning process to design personalized learning paths depending on each student. So this is the objective of the materials, and all of this taken from an ethics perspective. So the materials that we have developed are on the webpage of the project for sure, and a handbook related with the use of artificial intelligence from an ethics perspective. We are also develop some courses, 4 courses in total, talking about teaching about the different aspects in the field. So, and now.
This is the website of the project. Here you can download a handbook on artificial intelligence related to adult education. These are the contents of the handbook. They are divided into 4 chapters. Other information that can be found on the website is about the objectives of the project. In addition to the project objectives, there is also a news section. In this news section, we have included all the news either generated by the consortium itself or that have appeared related to artificial intelligence. And now the other part of the project is the creation of an open access course. The course is integrated into the Moodle platform. Any user can create an account to access it. Once the course Moodle has been accessed, the 4 available courses appear. We are going to enter one of them, and this is the structure of the course. Each of the courses is divided by lessons depending on the particular course. Then there's a short summary where the student is told what they're going to learn in each of the lessons of the course. And now we are going to look at some of these lessons in detail. Each of the lessons consists initially of a video introducing the topics corresponding to the lesson.
Hi, I'm Monica, an avatar created with artificial intelligence that will guide you through this course. After we begin, I would like to inform you that you have text materials associated with this course on the platform, which will provide you with more comprehensive and exhaustive content for each lesson. It is recommended that you read them carefully so that you can easily answer the evaluation tests of this course later. In this first lesson, we'll talk about how to create a learning environment suitable for applying AI on data produced by the students. To adapt learning paths, ensuring each learner receives tailored support and challenges.
In these courses, questions have been integrated during the video playback to capture the attention of the users and to be able to evaluate the follow-up of these videos. These consist of short multiple-choice questions. If the user makes a mistake, they can check which answers are correct. And now let's move on to other course content. On the other hand, the students are also provided with the content of the videos, the audios of the videos, so that they can access them and read them in more detail if they want to. Each of the videos is accompanied by a PDF with all the content from which the voiceovers of the video have been generated. Once the session is over, you leave the Moodle platform, and that's all I can tell you for now.
Okay, so as you have noticed, it's not my voice. Okay, and that's all for my part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. To conclude this first session, Rubén Araque Rodilla, Counselor for Security in Benaguasil, Spain, will present SETOF. Let's hear more from Rubén.
Thanks. Thanks for the invitation. We are very grateful to have been able to participate in the development and implementation of this program. SETOF, from the side of the City Council, the Chief Inspector of Police and Commandant in Office were involved along with myself as a civilian. Contributing experience, work methods, and interpretation techniques for our field work. The SETOF program is a European project that brings together different countries to improve the response to environmental disaster and expected accidents. In a world where natural and human disasters are happening more often, it's necessary to have trained staff who can solve this problem effectively. Object of the SETOF program. The main objective of the program is to create tools and training to help professionals identify, assess, and manage different risks. This includes training to recognize dangerous situations and create preventive measures to reduce these events. Training content. The training in the SETOF program covers different topics such as re-identification. Participants learn how to recognize different dangers and can help in their workplace, from humans or the environment. Risk assessment. We offer training to evaluate how big these risks are, the possibility of them happening. This helps decide which actions are more important. Developing response strategies. The training includes making plans to respond to emergencies, so staff is ready to attack effectively in accident. Practical exercise and simulation. To help learning, participants do practical exercise and simulation where they can apply their knowledge and in controlled environment. Cybersecurity in the set-off program. In today's digital world, cybersecurity is very important in our program. Information and data are needed to identify and manage risks, and any cyber AI attack can harm this information. We have some ways cybersecurity connects with the program. Protection of important data. The program protects information in case of AI attacks. If the information is attacked, it can lead to wrong decisions and can affect people and their environment. Preventing misinformation. Cybersecurity makes sure the data used is training and decision-making is correct and trustworthy. Wrong information could lead to bad response during emergency. Cybersecurity training. The program also teaches cybersecurity to staff are prepared to solve online risks. This includes recognizing and cyber attacks and using the right security tools. Organization resilience. Cybersecurity makes organization stronger by being prepared both physical and cyber risks, which help them respond to better different crises. Benefits of the program. The set-off program provides many benefits for organization or our community. Improve safety, training staff to recognize and manage risks, reduce accidents, and makes their work safer. Effective emergency response. With training staff can act better to crisis, which can save lives and reduce damage. Awareness and prevention. Training promotes a culture of prevention and safer everyday practice. International collaboration as a European program, it encourages countries to work together and share knowledge and experience improving the training. The conclusion. The set-off program is an important tool to improve the ability to answer to disaster by training professionals, by preparing professionals to manage both physical and cyber risks, DANIA. We create an stronger context, the collaboration between European countries, so how working together can help use face today's challenge better. Thank you.
Now, I hope that you are not tired because now we are moving to the second session of the event. It's titled Education and Digital Skills. We have a great group of panelists for this session. They are Tatiana Babrauskiene, Head of International Relations, Lithuanian Education and Science Trade Union. We are ready to talk with you. Georgi Dimitrov, Head of Unit in the DG Education, Youth, Sport and Culture of the European Commission. And Oscar Belmonte is also joining. I just remember you that he is Senior Lecturer, Department of Computer Languages and Systems in Jan First University. So let's move to the first question. What actions are being taken at the EU policy-making level to ensure equal access to digital literacy resources? I can give you the floor, Georgi.
Good morning, and many thanks to Finova and the European Economic and Social Committee for the invitation. So what actions are taken by the EU now? I would start by just stating the obvious, that the EU operates in the field of subsidiarity when it comes to education. This is very important to just state at the beginning, meaning that it is the member states and in some cases the regions. I mean, I think Spain, Germany have a lot of regional also autonomy when it comes to education. So the influence of the EU is relatively limited. Now, I say relatively because education nowadays is not what it used to be, especially when we talk about digitalization, because digitalization does not stop at the border of, between Flanders and North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. So digitalization is very, very harmonized, and all the social phenomena we deal with, be it disinformation, artificial intelligence, and you can go on, they are very, very similar. So this means that there is a certain common and shared interest of the European member states when it comes to digital education, which I'm responsible for in the European Commission. Still, the treaty is the treaty, the law is the law, and then what can we actually do in this? I think that we can do effectively two things. The first thing, which I am quite involved in, is to set up a shared and integrated policy framework for digital education and skills. And I stress the words integrated and shared, and I can say also coherent, because the concept of digital education is very, very wide, and because of the nature of the digital transformation, it is constantly moving. But the reality is still that education goes through as deep a transformation through the, let's say, through the digital technologies as any other sectors of society. What I would only say is that it just does a little bit later. It does it a little bit slower. So it is quite important to set a policy framework for what digital education actually means and where maybe the shared interests of the member states are. Very concrete examples are things like access to infrastructure, connectivity. Do you have access in your schools to fast internet as fiber? If you read the European statistics, you will very quickly realize that we all have faster internet in our pocket than our schools, relatively speaking, because only 20 to 25% of the European schools have fiber level of internet. And it is also about the content that people use for digital education. It's also about the devices. We have seen a few years ago the problems we have had when we had to switch online. And it is quite important to realize that the digital education space has a certain, if you like, boundaries. It has certain qualities to it. And what we promote through the Digital Education Action Plan, which is the European framework for digital education, which the Commission adopted 4 years ago, is exactly that. The need to promote a high-performing, we call this high-performing digital education ecosystem. I can simplify it by saying access to education is a human right, and it should be granted physically, but also digitally. So, and this is a very long shot, of course, but and the policy framework is important because the member states sometimes ask the European Commission for guidance, for orientation. And for example, last year, as part of the Digital Education Action Plan, we proposed 2 Council recommendations, which the member states also adopted. They are on the so-called enabling factors, which is the whole ecosystem, and they're also on the digital skills and competences. So this is the first area where we can help with establish a shared understanding, perhaps even agree to common targets. We want that everybody has access to connectivity, to things like this. We want the schools to be equipped, and we see no reason why certain member states should do this less well than others. The second, of course, area which we operate and where we can help is through funding, and here our Erasmus program, but also many other programs which support more and more the digitalization of education, such as the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which has a great share of funds to digitalization, operate at the European level, and this is where we advise also perhaps to an extent and discuss with the member states where these funds should be allocated best. So it is really these 2 areas where we provide help, the policy framework and the funding, knowing that we operate in the field of subsidiarity. I think I would stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tatiana, maybe you would like to give us some insights on this, maybe like what is the impact in trade unions about the European framework on digital in education.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me it's easy to answer because, as you heard, I'm coming from education trade union, education and science trade union, and they're the main actors who are going to implement everything what is according, of course, as Georgi has explained just now, impacted both by European and national policy. So, but before I want to say that also to build on what was said, that we have disadvantaged regions in terms of connectivity, in terms of also human resources, where it's difficult to attract also professionals to these regions. And if we speak about education as a right, we have to think about also how to support these disadvantaged regions and how, for instance, maybe focus, make them the priority and provide both learners and the teachers there with their basic digital literacy skills, at least, and of course necessary equipment. So second thing is looking from the holistic perspective, from social, economic, and the political perspective. We see three mega trends. We see green transition, digital transition, and we see also democratic developments, which is frightening. We see elections in the countries when the far right is coming with all the bouquet of all things like disinformation, fake information, soon saying that the dais is flat, and arguing this in the parliament as well. I'm expecting more of this in the coming years. So looking from this three perspective, we have very strong also policies on these issues. Here is digital. As I'm involved into skills more holistically, I see a very strong environmental movement with youth involved there. Also the Commission working on skills for sustainable development. Also this is in the implementation of SDG goals. And also we see the citizenship education, which is now strengthened in many member states want to strengthen this. If we look how they are complementary to each other, you see immediately the link. When we speak about sustainability, it's not only what Lorena said about impact of on water, for instance, of all this AI development. It's also that this movement is going to transform the schools. Yeah, that they are at least advocating to bring transformative education, to go to this whole school approach. And whole school approach, if you don't know this, is when curricula is co-designed with other actors. And what we see in non-democratic countries, like Hungary, for instance, now, the curricula is centralized, schools are centralized, and the curricula is coming from the state. So even teacher is not capable to modify something. It is the frame when the teacher is put. So many teachers resigned as a protest from the system. Now the system, the people who are coming there, they are not professionals. So we see how these three mega trends are interlinked and how they are impacting each other. This is one of my comments. When we speak about educators, the huge workload, aging. Imagine, I do understand that program excellent, but imagine the teacher who is aging and reading that and not even having basic digital literacy skills. That would be just looks and say, I'm loser. I probably have to leave the system. So we need to think how to attract young people to the profession. That's what trade unions are struggling now, how to make the profession attractive. But there are many things here. We need to, of course, provide the fair salary for the teachers, which is not the case in many countries. Also decrease the workload because of the lack of the teachers. They take too many hours to teach. Quality is deteriorating, and there are other consequences of this. Also, they're continuing professional development. There is, in many countries, it's ad hoc, some projectile maybe, some kind of maybe one act providing something, but no systematic, not building on what was already provided, not individualized even. It's like you have a group of teachers, you give them some lecture, teachers go, they get certificates because I had some piece of training. Second, maybe one of the things also linked to very important actors as parents. You know that parents are now affected more than children by the fake news that all these digital things are dangerous for children, and that you see every day in caricatures in Facebook, in other social media. For instance, yesterday I saw the mobile phone where inside is like a swimming pool, and there are two kids, a boy and a girl, and then the mom tries to get them out of this pool. They're thinking in the mobile phone inside. This is something you probably have seen. It's kind of, I do understand intention might be that they're using too much mobile phone and then they are somewhere, but intention also is that they are too much digital, too much dependent on the technologies, and that they have to be more to this. Again, I come to this mega trend of not democratic. You know what is the key word? Is they're using traditional values, and this is very worrying. This is why Putin started the war, because he's fighting for traditional values, and why all the populists, all the dictators are talking about, and that excludes artificial intelligence. In Russia, it's forbidden because artificial intelligence is saying clearly who started a war and who is Putin, and that's why you cannot teach artificial intelligence to say something different. That's why it's simply forbidden. They don't have it. So the same will happen soon in Hungary, and we have to look at also, as I pointed out, from this holistic perspective into education system, and see how we can align all together and be in support each other. It's not that the Commission is responsible for that, or educators or trade unions have to support teachers. It's like how all together, as society, in connection, we can really keep this planet in some stability mode. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So interesting. Now I would like to hear the opinion of Ruben. How can universities encourage to adopt innovative digital tools regarding to... yeah, do you want to maybe share your point of view how universities can encourage teachers, professors to use these innovative tools?
Okay, I think that it's not a question with an easy answer. Because from my experience and the experience that I have from the teachers community at universities, it's a kind of try to attract some investment to universities, to all teachers be specialized in the sector, because if we think only about the technical part, we are already, some of us are already prepared for face this challenge. But university is very, very high. They are very topics which now are using artificial intelligence. Most of teachers and most of the students are not prepared for face that in an ethical way. So I think that the key point, as have mentioned before in the table, is investment. So we ask for some investment for teachers be trained in these new technologies, how to use them in classrooms, how to avoid bad practices among students, how to avoid bad practices even in teachers themselves, because some of us do not use this in a good way, to say this. And yes, I think that the problem, the issue is big, and the answer is try to convince teachers that they should be trained in the use of these technologies, that they are here for always, I think.
Thank you very much. So how can the EU, universities or trade unions encourage responsible digital education practices? I give you the floor, Georgie, if you want to. Oh.
I think what I think that what could be helpful for educators and for teachers, there are three elements when it comes to how to learn new technologies and how to keep to be updated. Why we think about gamification is just for kids. It's also for the adults. Yeah, it should be attractive. It should be encouraging, motivating you, interesting. Not just. I do understand it's very serious because we believe that this profession is very serious. They have to have serious material. No, not necessarily. It should be gamification. That's my point. Second thing, it should be blended, of course. It's because I said limited time, limited also kind of attention. Think is very important because you know that the more years you have, the less time you can concentrate on this. This is a psychological thing. Yeah, kids are learning very fast because they have a lot of capacity, and then it's going narrower and narrower and narrower. This also should be adjusted. That's why we have andragogy. We have pedagogy and andragogy, and sometimes we are thinking that pedagogy might work for adults. It's not working. So this is something also we have to return to back and. Maybe, I don't know, some financial motivation also, because once you get some kind of pieces of learning, you use new techniques, you use, I mean, something like interesting methodologies. You should be also motivated financially. Get another maybe grade as a teacher, master teacher, or whatsoever. That used to be in the past in many member states, and now it almost disappeared. It's like everyone is having the same level.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask to Georgie, what are some of the EU's key initiatives to promote lifelong learning in the digital era, and how can we ensure they reach all citizens?
Thank you. Okay, yes, thank you. So first of all, I want to agree with both statements about the importance of the investment, and I'll come back to this, and the importance to tackle this, as you called it, fake news. And it was very interesting about the example you gave about the caricature, and I think that this is really something that has to make us critically think and question what we see. That's why digital literacy is so important, and being able to understand what you consume and what is actually the motivation of you being so, if I can say, some people speak about media addiction, and of course all of this is not coincidental at all, because there are very strong forces at work which make people go down this route. So it is very important to strengthen digital literacy with critical thinking. It's nothing else but pure old school rational critical thinking that we have to apply. It's only in a different modus operandi. But on the question of the promotion of lifelong learning, I think this is a critical aspect from an economic point of view, and I want to build on a very recent piece of, I find, extremely relevant news or data, in fact, evidence, which Mario Draghi presented 2-3 weeks ago. Mario Draghi, the former central bank president, was tasked with preparing a report by the European, I think it's for the Council and for the Commission both. So, and it's a fascinating work. You may disagree with many of the things that are said there, but they are very solid and very deeply rooted into evidence and data. And one of the many, many points, but one which is particularly striking for me and which goes back to the question of lifelong learning and also the skills you need to be able to compete, is really this very simple, for me, sort of almost revelation that the almost entire productivity gap between the United States and the European Union goes really down to the differences in the technology and digital adoption. So what they did, just to explain, is that if they took out the big digital companies, which are responsible for certain, let's say, GDP growth and et cetera, they took them out and then they compared the two economies. And what you found out is that in all the other economic sectors, productivity gains are very similar. In fact, in some of them, we are doing much better. Yet, grosso modo, the US, of course, is way ahead, and we all know this kind of, now the two famous kind of curves, which are diverging more and more. So this is the shocking news of the two curves, how in the last 15 years they have grown further apart. All down to the productivity gains in the digital adoption and sector. Now, what I would like to say with this example is that no adoption of technology and no economic growth in the digital space is possible without the workforce. And no workforce would emerge if the education and training systems, including the vocational education and training systems, do not supply this workforce with the type of skilled people that would, in fact, do this work every single day, because these are people who contribute to this growth day by day, and then 50 years later, you have the gap. And this is really the core of the problem. The root cause of the productivity gap is down to the relative, let's say, also gaps in the provision of certain type of skills by education and training. And I think you gave some nice examples. You mentioned gamification. I mean, it's a way to teach people in a new way, in a perhaps a little bit more attractive way for those who have grown up playing games and who like to do this type of things, to teach them math, for example. I mean, you all know Duolingo. So it's a way to learn language, for example. And these are things which are proven to work more and more. So there is a question here of, and this is just one example, and I'm in no way affiliated, by the way, with that company that I mentioned. So just to say that it is really the task of the education and training systems to also provide for these digital skills, which is, by the way, now why the Commission last year, when we had our proposal to the Council in our recommendation, which I've mentioned earlier on, we have put some examples such as the need, for example, to integrate computer science and informatics in all the curricula. This is not something that today is accessible for everyone. In fact, I mean, there is a huge need for informatics and computer science to be, first of all, taught. Secondly, we also need to think about digital literacy and competences in a way which is similar to how we think about basic skills. I mean, we all need to read and calculate every now and then. We don't do like sophisticated geometry every day, but reading, writing, these are the so-called basic skills. Well, I mean, it turns out that also we need the digital skills I mean, some people say that this is even more critical because sometimes you are excluded from a lot of services. So digital skills would need to be treated as a basic skill. And for example, I'll give you one simple example. There is no such thing like assessment in digital skills today. You can, of course, I mean, if I would ask you, do you know Spanish? Then, of course, you would know Spanish or some other language if you have gone through school, and then you do all your assessment at the end of the year, or maybe sometimes during the year, in maths as well. So there are very clear pedagogical established ways to do this. And in digital skills, of course, it's more novel, but the assessment question is not answered. So it is not easy to feed this talent pipeline, to develop this type of workforce and to develop this type of skilled people, also those who are in areas which are less well off. And for this, digital offers actually excellent tools to reach them. And then if you, let's say, project this further into the future, you see almost how inevitable that divergence becomes if we were not to start at the root cause of the problem and think about it in a bit different way. So this is why we have now started the review of our Digital Education Action Plan, and we have started a lot of stakeholder consultations. We have received multiple position papers from all across the private sector, the civil society associations, and with the new European Commission, which is currently preparing to take office, we will present the results of the review of the Digital Education Action Plan next year, and we will also identify some of the needs that we wish to advance on. Because it is becoming more and more clear that there are certain, let's say, certain aspects that we need to address with priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tatiana, I would like to ask you what are the most significant challenges that European educators face when trying to upskill for the digital age, as long as you are on the grassroots, like you talk every day with teachers, professors, so I would like to know your insights on this.
I partly already covered this issue, but the biggest challenge, as I say, that aging of teachers, aging, that we have the very bad demographic situation. We see that in a different level in all the EU member states. Then probably another issue is about their conservative way of the system, conservatism of the whole system of education, which is not going to transform into something, evolve into something different, more dynamic, more adaptive, more welcome also, because it's for teachers it's a huge challenge now, even to attract the attention of children in the classroom in the classic way, if they're not using any new technologies, if they are not fast enough to adapt. And again, if they are already in the age when they are, the education is, their professional development is slowing, and when they are not so easy to even accept this a new way of teaching, their living system, or they are just continuing as they are, demotivated, frustrated. It's a lot of disappointment. So I think that we need that's why I mentioned 3 trends. We need altogether force the system to transform. We need transformative education. And this is not just the word, because it's not about, it's a term. You can see what it means, and if we don't have transformative education, we are not getting to the level that we can accommodate the needs of the labor market. Because when we speak about education, I do agree we need to have digital skills, but we need to set them at each grade, what is needed at this grade. And also for the teachers, what teachers should do. Also entering the profession, what they need to do, what is their minimum competence in this area. It's not that then afterwards, when they are in the system, it's already difficult to gain this knowledge. It should be at the beginning. Initial teachers' education should include these elements. Of course, everything is evolving. You can teach it one thing, and then when you come to school, everything just changed one day, and you have new tools and new equipment, but anyway, you have the basics. You know how to apply this, or maybe it's the device is changing. You also know how to, in this case, use the other device. So support for teachers, support and real understanding that this is the key actors in the process. Whatever we plan at political level, they are there to implement. And then if we're not supporting them, They are just struggling there to just to do what, I mean, in the classical way they used to do. So that's.
Thank you very much. Georgie, would you like to give us some?
Yes, I actually want to just reflect a bit what Tatiana said, because I really strongly agree with what you just said, that ultimately it comes down to the teacher. I think what we can at some point do at the European level, and I think we all need to know a little bit our space of leverage, so we have to know where we can influence and where we have to be more prudent. I think what is very, very important is to realize the really tricky situation of the let's say teacher as the one who ultimately is responsible for this, with this more sort of ad hoc way of treating them. You do this, you do that, then go and now do some digital skills training in the CPD, in the continuous professional development modules, but then this is not very systematized. Then I think it is very, very important to, and this is why I think at the European level we are talking about it, because normally we would not let's say refer to the education in the way that we today talk, because of the legal situation. The European Union has, this subsidiarity, and the member states, in fact, do not like that the Commission talks about education. If I have to be now a little bit more kind of, let's say, transparent, and but it is very important because the kind of challenge is shared. And here, what we can do, and I think going back to Tatiana's point about some of the regions that are also disadvantaged, this is where the European interest is very strong in terms of learning from each other. So there are places in Europe where the progress is further, and these are teachers, these are headmasters, these are people who are very learning to share. They are open to share this with others who would like to go there, and so that a more systematic way of working appears. And my final point is a little bit more of a wishful thinking here, but because I am with somebody who is in the teacher's business, I really have been working now in this domain for 6 or 7 years in the digital education field, and I have come to see that it has also something to do with the status of the social status of the teacher. That ultimately some of these changes that we want teachers to implement, and we give sometimes a lot of money and investment, but at the same time we treat it a little bit as just an implementing arm. I think that for those of us who know history, and all of us in Europe normally know history, we all know that the teacher profession was basically the next to the sort of the priest, the doctor, and the lawyer came much later. In fact, if we are honest here, so lawyers, but the teacher profession is fundamental when it comes to social status and recognition in the history. But 200 years later. Okay, the priest, I don't know, the doctor is certainly, very, very well placed, but there is something to do with the social acceptance, and I'm saying this also, in fact, as somebody who works in education, but also as somebody who, as you mentioned, parents. I mean, some of us are parents here. I am a parent, and you have to treat people with a certain level of respect when you want them to do something which is good for society. So it's this kind of equation is very important to come back to, and it's not like we did not have it and need to invent it. We have been there. It's only that we lost it. And so the political pressure, closing the circle from the European level, is important, because politicians have to hear time and again that they need to establish back these, let's say, values in the education system, and also treat the teacher with a certain level of long-term respect, let's say. Thank you.
Just one thing to add. I do agree. I can subscribe to everything where I can sign this. We need to raise the status of teachers. But another crucial element is, and who is in the leadership of education? Yeah? Who are the managers who are there? The headmasters sometimes are even 100 times more conservative than teachers working in that school. When young people are coming to such school and see this environment, they have a lot of ideas, they are equipped with this and that, and then they come to this environment which is a little bit slow, conservative, not really accepting that you use new methods, etc. Say you better take the mentor and follow the mentor, and the mentor will say, and the mentor is not using any digital tools, not understanding what is the purpose of this. It's just waste of time, teach in the classic way, and etc. That's a problem. So we have to look who are coming as managers, as leaders to education, and probably that would be also one of the key opening this transformation process. And while teachers, of course, are the key actors, the main support, the main one who is maybe biggest trigger is the headmaster at school. I know that from my own experience. I see immediately when the leadership is changing, you see the school is, wow, going up, or it's kind of, I wouldn't say degrading, but at least kind of, how to say this, going this routine and becoming very boring for children and for teachers and for everyone who is working there. So maybe, yes, we put that together. We have to look at leadership, and of course we're looking at this in many countries. This is an issue.
Thank you very much. Education is the roots of our society, so it's so important that we put on the table these topics. Now I want to hear the public. Do you have some comment, thought, question, or just let's move to the other part of the session? If you have a question, just open the microphone and you are free. If not, no worries. No? So shy. Okay. Now, for closing the first part before the coffee break of this forum, I would like to invite Juan Manuel Revuelta, CEO of Fundinova Foundation, to share some closing thoughts on European funding opportunities. I give you the floor.
Thanks a lot. And we are very late. Then I will be very brief for the coffee break that is waiting for us. Thank you very much for the panelists. What I would like, from Fundinova Foundation, we try is to offer that practical approach about the EU funding opportunities with some examples. Today, this morning, in this, we have been inspired about all what artificial intelligence can offer as a tool, as an add value in education, in vocational training, but also with all this ethics and moral dimension that is very important. I'm very happy because I started in '93 here in the Economic and Social Committee as a trainee. At that time, internet didn't exist. And well, if it exists, we didn't know that. No DeepL, no translation, not WhatsApp.
But translators were.
Yeah. Translators, physical translators. Okay, now we are living in a completely different world. But summarizing, we have prepared, we are, as a foundation, we are based here in Brussels. We have also offices in Spain, in Sevilla, Madrid, Valencia, and also from 1 year ago, we have 2 antennas in Chile and Latin America. There are also opportunities to work under the umbrella of the European Union with Latin America. I'm talking of triangle cooperation and other EU funding. Because at the end of the day, we are in a global world. Okay, just to mention, Digital Europe, we have after an expert, Mr. Maximiliano Dragoni, that you can, and also I think that here in the round table, the representative of the European Commission can offer more information, but just explaining Digital Europe exists. Not 5 years ago, not 10 years ago, and just to mention the amount of budget. If I'm not wrong, 7.9 billion euros. A lot of money for digitalization. Of course, in the field of future skills, machine learning, all what is artificial intelligence, etc. But Erasmus is what has allowed us to be here with the LIBEI project. And what is quite interesting is to understand that in the first quarter of 2025, there will be a new call. We are extremely interested in partnership for cooperation. And also what is quite interesting is that there are this project bet, this call bet with Latin America or with Africa up to 400,000 euros, but as you can see, we can arrive up to 1 million euros lump sum. This is the BET program. It's quite interesting, and it's relative new call. I think there has been two calls up to now, but it allows to us to, because there are alliances with universities, with technological institutes there, and that's it. You have my mail. And also, allow me to finish explaining that there are other tools that are not for artificial intelligence, are not for education, for training, but that we can include there. I'm talking of Interreg. I'm talking in artificial intelligence of LIFE program. And you say, okay, LIFE is from the DG environment for climate change, for circular economy. We have there info about Life Eco-Digestion 2.0. It's a project, it's the last example. It's a project around 970,000 euros that is for a pilot demonstration project. It works perfectly to show us how to see the depuration water treatment plant in another way. The objective, how to be more efficient in energy efficiency, in circular economy, and you can say, in all over Europe, some figures, 18,000 depuration water treatment plants that consumes 3% of the total energy. Well, thanks to artificial intelligence and digital tools, as a digital twin, in that depuration water treatment plant that is in Benajever Quart, in the province of Valencia, they are learning how to improve, how to use better an infra-use infrastructure, the digester. To do what? To bring a sludge with the human sludge that are there. There are months that is 70% of capacity, one day 40%. We can bring organic waste from the pig slurry, from farms, from supermarket, from the municipality. Objective, to reduce the waste goes to the landfill, to produce energy efficiency and biofertilizers. Okay. At the end of the day, we are talking of an artificial intelligence project with digital twin. And what's the link with vocational training? 18,000 depuration water treatment plants means at least 18,000 directors of depuration water treatment plant in Europe, but imagine in all over the world. How to manage, how to install that kind of digital twin and how to manage that. There are tremendous learning opportunities, and there is a lot of slot for universities, as Jaime Primero, to use artificial intelligence in how to manage better, in this concrete case, the environment, no? The depuration water treatment plant. Let's go for the networking coffee.
30 minutes. I wait you here.
You can proceed to do questions to the panelists and to do new projects and a new consortium. Thank you.
So let's meet 11:45. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I invite you to take your seat so we can start with the second part of the event. Thank you. Welcome back. I hope the coffee break helped and you got some contacts. Now we'll move into our second part of the forum and third session. It's titled Future of Work and Industry, where we'll discuss Industry 5.0 and the skills needed for the next wave of innovation. Exciting topic, right? Let's introduce our next set of panelists. We count on expertise of Massimiliano Dragoni, who is Senior Policy Officer at the European Commission and Policy Advisor at Associazione Fabbrica Intelligente della Lombardia. We'll also have the point of view of Hassan Susen, founder and CEO at Hybrid Core, founder at Beyond the Horizon ISSG, and European AI Alliance member. And Lars De Nul is also joining, Deputy Head of the Industry 5.0 and AI in Science Unit at the European Commission. First, we will start with Massimiliano Dragoni, who will explain to us the future of work in the European Union context. I give you the floor, Massimiliano.
Yeah, okay. How do I put, okay, whoa, can you make it a bit bigger? It's hard to read. Okay. All right. It's kind of, can you change it? I mean, I don't mind being projected, but I mean, maybe you could make it bigger so that. No, but I mean also for people to read. Okay, that's what I mean. Okay, great. Basically, what I'll do a brief presentation of what actually digital skills and future skills matter, seen from a perspective which is not necessarily the public administration's perspective, but it's a perspective of what can be found in several studies which have been carried out over the last, say, 12 months In particular, there has been a study which I appreciated very much, which has data, which I'll utilize in this presentation, and showed how, which is the McKinsey report 2024 on digital skills and AI automation introduction in the workforce, which provides us with some hints on where the, let's say, job opportunities, skills required, and particularly, let's say, the future work will go over the next, let's say, decade or so. As you all know, the European Commission launched the Digital Decade in 2020-21, which means, this decade should be the decade where we bring about digitization across Europe. But I'll put the accent so that there is an overall context in which digitization is taking place, and AI is only part of it. But in this case, in this particular presentation, I'll put my accent not so much on, let's say, our policy, which is very important. I'll mention the policy we have for the protection of workers at the end, but I'll put the accent on what we mean by competitiveness and productivity. In other words, and I'll start going with my presentation, when we talk about global economy, especially in a globalized world, it'll take about 10 to 12 minutes, my presentation. Productivity, and I'll just give a little bit of background right now, is crucial for remaining competitive. In other words, what we need to bear in mind is that a company becomes more productive when it produces more or better quality goods or services for the same amount of resources, which means that they may need, given that they have a growth, which we assume that competitive companies do have, hire more workers to meet an increased demand for their products or services. Therefore, an increased productivity in one sector can also stimulate job growth in related industry, boosting innovation, leading to the creation of new jobs and roles, and particularly in the area of research and development, engineering, information technology. Obviously, if we're in a digital society, we cannot expect we can expect these areas to kind of take the lead into the future occupational outset. So let's bear in mind that increased productivity does address labor market challenges, but enables employers also to produce, driving economic growth and creating better paying jobs with opportunities to build on human capital. However, I have remarked, and you can simply take any study. It was mentioned also earlier by my colleague from DG EAC and other speakers, that Europe has experienced a long-term productivity slowdown since the 1960s. And we are lagging behind the United States, be it for lack of digital knowledge or education, or simply for other reasons that we may tackle later on. Whoops, going the other way. So what is the current situation? Let's place ourselves in the context of where we are. Let's not forget we had some financial crisis in 2010. Then we had COVID-19 in particular. And thanks to COVID-19, then we had also a couple of wars going around the world, which actually affected us in a direct or indirect way. But what we should bear in mind is that the impact of COVID-19 has been quite fundamental for the digital evolution of work. Around 3% of the working population voluntarily or involuntarily exited, so changed their occupational categories, changed job, either gave up their job or decided to change job, between 2019 and 2022, which is more than triple the historic average. Trends boosted by the pandemic are likely to endure, and this is meaning an increase in e-commerce and the switch to more remote work, which is an opportunity for productivity growth and transition from a decline in occupation to rising ones. Meaning, nowadays, I'd say about 20% of the population, of the working population, does use teleworking one way or another. And that's become part of our daily routine or weekly routine, which has allowed us to gain savings in terms of time, which is not necessarily converted into working time. It can be leisure time, meaning you don't take 45 to an hour to get to work, but during that 45, 1 hour, maybe you take care of your kids, you watch a video, or you talk to your friend or whatever. And that's additional time that some workers have at hand by teleworking that can be translated into non-productive or productive aspects of their previous work. Wasn't productive before, but it's not increasing productivity today necessarily. So automation technology has a potential to revive productivity growth and allows economies to solve some of today's labor market challenges, presenting opportunities for high productivity growth and a faster occupational transition. What I mean by occupational transition is when you change job, or simply you lose your job and you have to find a better job or another job. So that's, you know, a nice word to put, you know, job change. Last, the faster technology adoption in the EU can bring a productivity growth of roughly 2 to 3% per year, however, requiring some 12 million occupational transitions in the coming 6 years. So between now and 2030, we'll have probably up to 12 million job changes, be it voluntary or involuntary, happening across the EU. And this is kind of like a conservative estimate. So what are the emerging work profiles in coming years? Well, of course, STEM, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and health professionals will grow dramatically. I mean, up to 17 to 30% between this year and 2030. These are data coming from these studies, in particular the McKinsey study, which actually did a lot of interviews and focused on 12 member states, so out of the 27, but the more, let's say, representative ones, and then simply extrapolated that to the rest of the EU. So I give it a reliability of approximately 85 to 90%. So between 17 and 30%, and adding around 6.5 million new positions in these areas in Europe by then, by 2030. Jobs for health aides, technicians, and wellness workers will continue growing by 20 to 25% between 2024 and 2030. And I mentioned this later on. This is the aging population which matters. And aging population does not really need only technology, also needs care, and care can be empathy, can be, let's say, adaptability, capacity to communicate, and I'll get back to that later on. Jobs in management, construction, creative and arts management, and transportation services is also expected to increase by about 8 to 9% in the coming years. However, about 30% of current work activities could be automated by 2030. And they'll be even more accelerated by, you know, Gen AI deployment, you know, generative AI deployment, which actually can, and I'll mention that later on, enter what we may call skilled areas of work. Thank God we have a lot of public administrations in Europe, and the public administration PA employment, especially in administrative activities, will not be so strongly impacted for regulatory and some political reasons, policy reasons, and this may reduce the impact of the expected disruption. However, jobs in areas such as food services, production work, customer services, sales, and office support will continue their decline until 2030. So what is the expected disruption in the future of working? Generative AI will replace about 27% of the hours worked in Europe and 30% of the hours worked in the United States as of today. So let's say 2024, 2025, if things go as they are going now. By 2035, these figures, by 2030, by 2035, these figures could rise to 45% in Europe and 40% of the United States. That's quite, you know, hours worked. That's quite it's a potential. I mean, I don't think it will happen personally, but it is what it is. The potential for automation varies greatly across occupation, and for instance, automation in business consulting and legal professions could replace about 26% of its work by Gen AI. It's actually easy to understand when you have a possibility, when you have repetitive texts, like, I don't know, some legal offices, some notary publics, some consulting, which have to, you know, bid for work, and let's say the first part of the work is to do a recollection of the situation on the market, on pump on general data bases and all that. I mean, that could actually be quite repetitive, and just with slight modifications. And Gen AI, especially of the third generations we have now, can actually do quite a fine job at that, the equivalent of a young analyst, and that's no surprise. So variations across the EU has been remarked that are driven by two factors. One, the differences in the structure of employment and wage levels. For instance, oddly enough, occupations with high technical automation potential will be heavily affected. So, for instance, jobs which already have a highly, let's say, some relatively modest to high technical skills involved. And why? Because they earn higher wages, and this gives companies in general an economic incentive to automate. In other words, having a Gen AI or equivalent automation in their business will actually lower costs on the longer term. Whereas lower wage jobs will be less affected by automation of work. So, for instance, janitorial work or let's say, garbage pickup work because, simply Gen AI is too expensive for the wages they'll be replacing. So that's, in a way, keeps the very lowly skilled work layers actually more protected than the middle ones. Something which is very important, however, in the say, well, someone else will talk about this, but the Industry 5.0 as well as the future of our digital societies, that complementarity of human and machine will be critical for the future of work, pretty much all across the board. So, areas of potential work evolution in Europe. Well, there are three elements which contribute right now, main elements. Of course, there are more. Could be linked to a foreseeable occupational demand in the coming decade. One is the net zero impact action, so in other words, the Green Deal in all its forms. Two is aging demographics, and three is e-commerce. Net zero actions increase demand for work and lead to occupational transition in both Europe and the States, because these great areas, so both us and the United States, have committed to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Let's see whether that'll be possible, but let's assume that they'll happen. So thanks to regulatory and investment commitments to the zero net transition, it would lead to a structural shift in the labor market by 2030 and beyond. So we're talking about somewhere in between 3 million jobs displacement by 2030 in the areas of carbon-intensive industries such as oil, gas, and coal. Let's remember there are some countries in Europe which still utilize a lot of coal and have coal mines actually working still today at full speed. But this will be offset by the potential 4.5 million to 5 million jobs in renewable power generation, storage, construction, and electric vehicles. Obviously, we'll have to see how the electric vehicles will go with the new Commission and the Parliament. But normally, it's something which has already started and probably will move on in that direction. So further, new employment in solar and wind power involving manufacturing and installing new infrastructure will generate jobs. I mean, it's something which will need relatively low-skilled people to set these things up, so it's part of the construction business. But for instance, in the construction, which obviously will need human element in it, the retrofitting of buildings could add a gross, let's say, about 1 million jobs in the building sector. So retrofitting means generating buildings which are more eco-friendly, consume less energy, retain heat, are made with material which is, healthier and more sustainable. So aging demographics is the second area of potential growth, and of course, if we consider that data is quite scary. These are demands for jobs in the healthcare-related services that would increase in the next decade. Considering that the elder population over 65 doubled between 1980, let's say in Europe, we were about 48 million people, and 2022, where they simply doubled. Now there are 94 million elderly in Europe. And by 2030, we'll have just slightly over 100 million people, around 65 plus. Those are the famous boomers, so to speak, and even some earlier generations. We're talking about 18% of the population, 80% of the population which have a relatively high per capita income to spend on healthcare, and will probably generate an expectation in growth in that sector of an average rate of approximately 6.5% till 2030, and we'll see beyond what will happen. And that's definitely an area where there'll be increase in job demands. Last, e-commerce, the growing e-commerce spending, which has been, let's say, boot-started by the COVID-19 crisis, will affect occupational transitions by means of increased demand for logistics and warehousing jobs. Now, you've probably seen you understand, if you just know how many logistics centers there are in Europe for Amazon alone, you'll be startled. We're talking about a few dozens, up to 100. So imagine people working there. Of course, there's a part of the work which is managed by robots, but still everything, logistics, management, controls, and all that requires quite a bit of occupation. And so it's an increase in demand for, increased demand for logistics and warehousing jobs, while let's bear in mind that there will be a decrease in demand for in-store occupations. So the famous shops in the corner in the neighborhood and in-store, like let's say let's call it the media market or the supermarket and things like that. So where you have in-store occupation, there'll be dropping in the future in terms of occupational numbers. Decrease in labor demand in traditional retail may be balanced by a similar scale increase in e-commerce. That's what we expect, but we'll have to see how the market will behave. So demands for skills, the current situation. So right now, this is an interview carried out on 2,500 CEOs or CTOs in companies and human resource managers to understand what companies are actually looking for right now, let's say in 2024. And they face the main message is that most companies, be it in traditional or emerging verticals, face a skill mismatch, particularly in the technological, higher cognitive and social and emotional skills. That's an interesting part, the social and emotional skills. 30% of the companies interviews report a very consistent shortfall in these critical areas. What the company says is that they have enough employees with basic cognitive skills and physical manual skills, but the shift towards service-based economy prioritizes higher cognitive and technological skills, and the rise of automation AI brings or calls for more technological expertise. So companies flag a significant shortage in advanced IT skills and programming, as well as advanced data analysis and mathematical skills. At the same time, social and emotional skills, which bring about adaptability and entrepreneurship, are key future needs for companies. So let's not think there is only technology that matters for the future. In the future, in those three, let's say, global, general areas that I mentioned earlier, for instance, in the healthcare and the aging population, definitely, let's say that the capacity to have emotional skills and adaptability do have and play a role. So workers need to be able to face disruption and embrace a culture of learning and flexibility, essential in co-working with automation and AI and technology in general. So new skills for a new era. I heard this morning that we're investing a lot in education, digital education. I'm very happy to hear that because new technologies require a new workforce skills. As a result of the digital economy, all new jobs from nursing to truck driving will have a digital component by 2030. I mean, an important component, not just simply changing the radio station or so. Some of the studies suggest that the work skills can be split in 5 general groups. So physical and manual, physical and manual, first level. Next level, basic cognitive. Next level, higher cognitive. Next level, social and emotional, and then technological. Physical skills would remain important in some sectors. So we're talking about, this decade up to 2030. But technological and social and emotional skills will be in high demand. Demand for technological skills could be up to a 25% growth in Europe by 2030 compared to 2024, so in the next 6 years. Also demand for social and emotional skills, so the capability to manage elderly or capability to manage conflicts, capability to manage situations, negotiations, and other things where there is a need to have some sort of Fingerspitz, that's a German word to say, Fingerspitzgefühl, so the feeling on the tip of your fingers, will be in demand, are expected to rise by about 11% in the same period, so between now and 2030. These skills are crucial in healthcare and managerial roles in an evolving economy that demands greater adaptation and flexibility. Demand for work in basic cognitive skills is however, expected to decline by around 14% by 2030. Basic cognitive skills is being able, primarily clerical work, so to speak. As I say here, office support or customer service role, which are highly susceptible to be automated or enhanced by AI. Demand for work with higher cognitive skills would also see a slight decline by 4% in Europe by 2030. Because jobs requiring advanced literacy and writing, as well as quantitative and statistical skills, would be declining by 19% because it could be attributed to the potential of automating activities with particular effect on the business support, so all the clerical support, all the desk search and all things like that, and the legal professions. However, an area will stay, and that's a very important one, which is creativity, is expected to remain high in demand with a potential increase of 12% in jobs by 2030. That, creativity in all its aspects, going from communication to real arts. Preparing for the future. So companies will be the main source of occupation in Europe. That's something we cannot escape. I mean, let's be honest about it. I mean, we need to have more competitiveness, more productivity, more companies which produce, let's say, income, which then can be taxed, and we can use that taxed income in order to generate some social support, some welfare for those that are not so well off with the new world that's coming. So we need to have strong companies and long-lasting companies. They are at the core of the European competitiveness. In the coming decade, they will need to transform and retrain their workforce to adapt to the new work landscape. I said also retain, because that's, retaining talent is becoming more and more the challenge of the century, because, as you know, when you have a talent and there is a shortage of talent, demand is much higher than the offer, and oftentimes you see employees with very good talent that switch one company to the next seeking for higher salaries, and that doesn't do the interest of any specific companies, and sometimes don't even add any value to the whole vertical of those companies or related sectors. So the decision that I made today could help the companies boost both growth and human capital development and keep a competitive edge or an advantage in the automation and AI era. 3 areas that companies should be looking carefully at is that, first of all, companies need to understand the potential of these technologies and understand how they can fit, notably AI, but also other techs, in their business, and how AI and other technology actually can enhance business, because sometimes it may simply not be the case, or it may simply stay as they are. Then they should, too, plan a strategic workforce shift towards readiness for this automation and AI era, in case they want to introduce it. So they have to, size in the workforce, and skills need to bridge the future talent gap. So they have to prepare, either hire or simply reconvert the internal, the employees that they have at hand, or the people that work with them. And 3, prioritize people development to ensure that the right talent is on hand to sustain the company strategy during all the transformation phases, including the CEOs. And retention is the name of the game, especially for, let's say, highly skilled and talented people inside the company. But another, let's say, second name of the game is that CEOs, so people that do make decisions and are the ones bringing about change in the companies, should be made aware and somehow trained to understand what technology, AI, and whatever else is brought about, like from blockchain to IoT, can actually be and serve for their business in the positive or even negative sense, because, they should be aware and not simply jump into things because some consultant comes and tells them, this is good for you. They need to be digital literate as well. So let me conclude by mentioning one EU policy on employment, skills, and poverty reduction, which is quite very important. And it's part of a plan which the Commission's presented in 2023 in Oporto to set out the ambition for a strong social Europe that focuses on new job skills and social inclusion. The plan has set 3 targets for 2030, and that is that at least 78% of people aged between 20 and 64 should be in employment in Europe. Currently I think we're not much beyond 60, and some maybe 64, 65 max. So it's quite an increase, and let's hope we can manage that. At least 60% of all adults should participate in training every year. So we'll be leveraging all the digital and other, even social skills and communication skills, and empathy. Learn how to be able to listen and translate that into something valuable and worthy in the company or in the area or whatever business you're in. And then the number of people at risk of poverty, and this is more of a social objective, should be reduced by at least 50 million people, including at least 5 million children, by 2030 compared to 2019. All this to support to reverse the impoverishment of the European population. These objectives are supported primarily by the Social Fund Plus, and currently the budget for supporting this is about 142.7 billion euros for the 21-27 framework program, multi-annual framework program. So that's a good news. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that there are a lot of challenges ahead to address, but let's do some questions. The first one is for Lars. What is Industry 5.0 and how it's transforming traditional workforce roles to foster inclusivity.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know whether I should introduce Industry 5.0 as a concept first. I can...
Yes, please.
I'll be very brief. Industry 5.0 is a concept that we developed at DG Research and Innovation, so the research part of the European Commission, around 4 years ago. And it's an extension of the Industry 4.0 concept, which by now is almost 15 years old. Industry 4.0 is the German concept of integrating new technologies in industry. So using Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, etc., essentially to increase efficiency and productivity, a very traditional idea of deploying technology. And when we were developing the Industry 5.0 concept, it was provoked by the realization that the world had significantly changed. We had the COVID crisis coming up at that point, and many things were shifting, and the things have shifted and continue to shift significantly globally. And we wondered, also in the face of declining European industry, with industry being offshored from Europe, and then a renewed focus also on a sort of strategic autonomy and the realization that we have to do some things in Europe ourselves, or have to be able to produce some things in Europe ourselves. Our question was essentially, what could this future of European industry look like? And we built it around 3 pillars. I would say that the real added value of the concept comes in combining those pillars and seeing things holistically. The 3 pillars are sustainability, human centricity, and resilience. So we think in order for Europe to have an industry, retain industry, and maybe rebuild an industry, the longer-term perspective of industry has to be compliant with European values, and that is actually embodied in these 3 pillars. There's a whole bunch of evidence that we also consulted that indicates that people also think this is very important, and that this could actually address some of the challenges that European industry is already facing today. In terms of sustainability, this is quite self-evident, let's say, that there is a push towards greening. We'll see now what happens with the new Commission in the new term coming up. But it's clear that it is a direction that many companies are already going into. And we also have evidence from that. I'll talk a bit about that later. The resilience aspect is the aspect, of course, that we've seen very clearly during COVID, but that continues to be a factor in a very crisis-prone environment, especially for multinational companies. And there, it's really necessary that the company is configured in such a way that it can easily respond with the resources it has to changes and crises, which traditionally, if you look at how 90s industrial development went, was not done or was not considered a priority. And the third, and I think maybe most crucial or innovative aspect of the concept is the human centricity. And that is primarily actually, the primary evidence for that is basically that industry in Europe is having a hard time recruiting people. So there are many profiles, and these are not just like the highest level engineers, etc. There are many profiles that industry is unable to employ. We hear stories from German companies where they have basically the capital and the money to build entire plants, machinery, etc., and they can't find the correct operators for them because the guy has retired at 60 and there's nobody there to replace him, because also nobody is very interested in these jobs. And that also has to do with the image of industry as not a very future-oriented sector, but a sector in decline. We've also had a number of industrial scandals in Europe. Maybe we already forgot at this point, but we had Dieselgate, etc. And the industry is just not seen as a very attractive employer by young people. So something has to change there. And then on the other hand, there is the push from technology, as also my colleague has previously talked about. The idea that entire factories would be completely automated by AI, by new technologies, etc. And in our evidence also shows that this is simply not true. As was also said before, the human factor is a very important factor, and that factor is creativity, it's innovation, it is the possibility to also be adaptable and to be resilient in changing contexts. that could actually make or break an industrial company. So our proposal there in that context of the human-centric technologies is that technologies, rather than being pushed onto an industrial environment just to make things more efficient or productive as would be traditionally done, that technology development has to go hand in hand with the people on the shop floor. So the technology would assist the people so that they can actually maximize their added value, their human added value, and would be developed alongside the people on the shop floor, making sure that there is a maximization of the human involvement and of the technological potential, rather than trying to replace people with technology straight away. That's at the heart of this concept. That was a theoretical concept that was built from desk research, let's say, at one point. We developed it further. To our surprise, a bit. It was a very well downloaded paper that we first wrote, and there was a lot of pickup of that. And there are now many companies, also research institutes and think tanks, interested in this concept as a sort of North Star for where European industry will go, and also as a sort of guide for how to manage this twin, digital and green, and now it's also fair, digital, green and fair transition that European industry and of course European economy in general is going through. Now, to operationalize that and to put some meat around the bones, we have kicked off last year a community of practice, and that's a community of practice originally composed of 120 stakeholders, and they're stakeholders at large. So you have very large industrial companies, you have SMEs, you also have research and technology organizations. There are social partners included in that. And together with that group, we have set out to develop something that is now at this stage finalized, because we just yesterday had a big plenary meeting and an adoption of the deliverables there. And the deliverables are twofold. It's one, a more operational agenda for Industry 5.0 to see how an enlarged community of practice can help this further and can work and can inspire each other to make sure that the experiences from these transitions that are typically also already present in larger companies can also trickle down to SMEs and to the entire industrial EU landscape. And the other objective, very concrete one that we had, was to develop a sort of measuring tool called a learning and assessment tool that is a standardized tool that companies can use, big or small, to evaluate their performance on Industry 5.0 and to use as an inspiration for how they can transform further in that direction. And that tool has been developed. It's at the moment being tested with all community of practice members and now also beyond. And we're getting very positive results from that. One of the elements that we very clearly see there is that often the narrative, the sort of greenwashing narrative that some companies may have, can be at odds, and that is something that you can detect with this actual measurement that really gives you an idea about which direction we're going into. One of the objectives of the continuation of this community of practice that's very central is the continued development of a business case for the Industry 5.0 project. We hear from many of our stakeholders that that business case for them is self-evident. They say a company that is actually not doing Industry 5.0 now is doomed to fail within the coming 5 to 10 years. Some companies are very convinced, maybe some others are not that much, but we really want to have a very solid, concrete business case of saying these are the reasons you should adopt these practices. And in the end, what this boils down to is with possibly new investments coming up in industry. Also, we've had the Draghi report trying to enhance European competitiveness on that front. It's important to keep a longer-term perspective, and we should not just jump on the latest hype, have companies invest in that, because we're not sure that it will work out. We have limited funding to support industry with. Industry has limited funding to invest, so we need to make sure that we invest them in a smart way. And that needs this longer-term perspective as a North Star for where industry could go. And that's basically what we try to do with Industry 5.0. So with that, and I apologize for maybe not being so short discussion, maybe could you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is how it's transforming traditional workforce roles to foster inclusivity across Europe.
Thank you very much. So that is, I mean, as I explained, we have set up this community of practice, and the community of practice works to operationalize, notably the human-centric pillar of Industry 5.0. And what that would mean in practice is that industry would aim to have safe and qualitative jobs that focus on the well-being of the worker. The worker is the central element in industry because it's a crucial component in exactly this resilience. It's a crucial component in knowledge for how to operate the system at the moment, but also to continue operating it and to change it in terms of ongoing transitions and global changes. So you need to have empowered and engaged workers that want to stay with you. Exactly as my colleague said, retention is really crucial, and also finding new people who want to work with you is essential there. So we need technologies, changes in industry through technologies need to enhance workers' capacities and to foster creativity. And in larger companies where they have setups for learning on the job, where they have bigger recruitment schemes, etc., these things are already very much happening. They know that they have to do it. They need to find the people. They have to retain the people with a very specific knowledge that otherwise will be lost, and they can't really function well without it. So for them, it's already a necessity, but it's much more difficult to do in the smaller companies and the SMEs. And as you know, of course, Europe is also characterized by having many, many SMEs in close networks. So our aim now at the moment is to try and focus on how can we get those elements and that idea of empowering workers through technology, doing technology development with the workers, retaining workers and attracting new ones. How can we have that trickle down to the SMEs?
Thank you very much. Now I would like to hear from a company or business perspective. How are companies preparing to transform traditional workforce roles to foster inclusivity? Hassan, maybe.
So, thank you very much. So, we are a deep tech company, so I'm familiar with working with the crazy people, so this environment is too serious for me. So I'm scared to say something, but I will try to my best. Thank you for introducing what is the Industry 5.0, because we need to see the same picture. And then, of course, we did a lot to solve our problems, experience yesterday, but we need to also, face the challenging, emerging threats, emerging landscape of technology and landscape. And then, while on the one hand, while filling the gaps, I mean the European AI gaps, European quantum gaps, then we also prepare our workforce starting from the elementary school or kindergarten, from our perspective. So in this context, we also develop some proposals and projects to launch, for instance, AI for kids. So AI for kids, in this project, the kids, use some tools, robots, and they are learning some very basic coding, but the main idea is develop the kids' cognitive skills, problem solving, and also this we force the kids that these problems should be have a social impact. For instance, kids train the robots. The robots has some computer vision capabilities, and then train these robots to provide some medication, simple medication task to elderly peoples in the elder house. So with this way, the kids interact with an advanced tool and train these tools. Of course, we had default algorithms, but the kids, they develop a logic, a simple logic, with the help of the teachers and also our own experts. Then after train these tools or systems, launch or send these robots or use these robots in a social responsibility projects, let's say. With this way, kids not only engage or interact with the machines, but also the humans. So, as you mentioned, that the human-centric technologies, we try to force human-centric technologies with starting from kindergarten or elementary schools. But of course, we face a lot of challenges to launch such projects. And let me follow this item, I mean the human-machine collaboration. In Industry 5.0, so we should move forward beyond the level of digital literacy in the workforce. When we prepare the future manpower, future workforce, we are looking at additional skills for communicating with the machines, of course, but using some robots or cobots for collaborative robots. So, for instance, in a project, we develop a highly sophisticated human-machine interaction simulations. So Elon Musk is trying to put a chip in the human brain, but we try to do the vice versa. We try to put the humans in the machine environment, in a simulation environment, even the runtime. So the simulation has a highly sophisticated engine run by the AI. But in this case, we, for instance, at a company level, whole of company, whole of government level, so based on scenarios, the AI run these scenarios. In these scenarios, there are lots of intelligently interacting multi-agents. But we also integrate the metaverse, AI and VR modules to open a gateway to provide advanced human-machine interactions. So with this way, some agents can run by the humans, the others can run by the AI. So with this way, so AI versus human or AI-human collaboration can be a reality in the simulation environment. So in an accident, in an energy facility, imagine that. Like a scenario. So with this way, you can train your people from the field staff to the sea level. Even in a real-time case, if you have a real-time streaming data, so you can take some precautions in advance and then see your results of your decision, and then you can refactoring your decision, relaunch the scenarios and run the simulation, enabling the human-machine interaction. So the future is like that. So even non-technical stuff. So we put at some edge that if anybody can use a smartphone, should be able to use our systems. So this is our the critical edge to define the requirements for fostering, human-machine interactions. So behind the screens, so there is highly sophisticated technologies, but in front of the screen, the user interface is easy to interact with the machines. So we should not limit ourselves when we talk about human-machine collaboration, human and machines, and then we are doing some jobs together. So we should go beyond this collaboration. So integrating AR, VR modules, simulations, not only for training purposes, but in real cases, we should use such systems if we are talking about Industry 5.0. So turning to inclusivity, so I would mention that the hiring algorithms in HR, so are not free from bias. So if you think that it's a really hard task to make such algorithms free from bias, So I do not agree with this, because the AI is, doing highly sophisticated tasks. So, but the companies or governments or recruiters do not want to use such ethical AI applications for the sake of the profit, or to be selective based on their own requirements, can be not ethical. So inclusivity start with the recruitment process. So, and then through lifelong learning and also on-the-job training, hands-on training. So of course then you can empower your staff to use, to develop, to benefit from such technologies. This is another story. So and then I need to open another window. So when we are recruiting the young talents, so there is no so let me explain another way. Otherwise, I not want to target the young generation. But after the graduation of the universities, so we recognize that before onboarding such young talents, so we need to force these guys get some additional, certificates, trainings, on-the-job trainings, or hands-on trainings, or before starting a recruiting process. So we say that these are our requirements. Please follow or meet these requirements, and then we can start discussing the recruitment process. So this is another.
Yeah, we are talking a little bit later about the future skills needed for the future work. But first, I would like to know from a policymaker perspective, how can partnerships among industry, governments, and educational institutions build a resilient workforce? So maybe Lars, do you want to?
Yes. I mean, I already talked about it, but I think our community of practice is a nice example of that, where, in this case, at the European level, we want to gather stakeholders, bring people together, so that there can be a mutual learning, that there can be spontaneous collaboration and coordination. And of course that extends down to the other levels of government and administration as well. And I think there particularly the regions have a very important role to play. There are enormous differences in terms of industry, not just industrial types, but also industrial development across the different regions in Europe. And very often the regional aspects of industrial connections between also suppliers of the larger companies, SME networks, etc., are really the heart of the fabric of European industry. And they have an important role to play in providing a direction and providing this mutual learning for innovation and towards the future. And one of the models that we're now exploring also with the community of practice is that of, I mean, I'm not sure you're aware, but we have digital innovation hubs which exist in the different regions in Europe. Some of them are partly funded by the European Commission as well. And they are initiatives that companies, private sector companies, can go to in order to help them with their digitalization process, with digital transformation. It's now also the case that at least one digital innovation hub in each member state, and in the bigger ones there are several, have a specialization in AI. So also for companies looking to adopt AI, they can go there. This is an interesting and successful initiative. Of course, it's relatively limited, but we are now looking in at how can we have maybe similar such hubs, maybe extensions of the digital innovation hubs, but maybe also things set up by bigger companies in certain regions that can function as a hub for taking on board what is in our case the Industry 5.0 aspects that include this idea of human centricity. And it can also be about sharing best practices as to how to retain talent, get talent, evolutions that your company can go through to make that happen. So, I mean, I want to emphasize indeed this regional aspect is tremendously important also across Europe.
Thank you very much. Massimiliano, do you want to add some insights on this topic, or we can just move to the other question?
Thank you. I think Lars made a very clear point, and I think this community of practice, which is being set up at the Directorate General of Research, is very important. As a matter of fact, I think it's something like that we should be doing. I mean, you know, public-private partnerships are the name of the game for the next decade at least. And if we don't take on board the industry supporting, okay, let's bear in mind something. Companies, industries, whether it be large, mid-caps, even SMEs, their business is not being philanthropic, and they're not really there to worry about the social problems in Europe. They're there to make a profit and stay on the market. And they need competitiveness, they need productivity. That's what they're really concerned about. The role of the public is that of being there and supporting them for those things that they don't do themselves alone. And that's what the European Commission and also regional governments and governments should be doing in order to create the favorable environment, so the enabling environment for the companies to flourish and then reap let's say the fruits of the common private and public engagements. And you know, each country, so each member state is slightly different in the way this issue is approached. And you know, let's say even in the startup area, you can see the many startups where we have quite a lot of talents in some countries don't work. In my country, Italy, it's a clear case. Most Italian startups made their best takeoff, not in Italy. In Europe, used to be the UK, now in some cases it's Holland, some cases it's France. But when they want to go for real money and grow globally, they go to the States. Or other countries which are now emerging are providing some funds, like Dubai. I mean, I was really surprised to see that 150 Italian startups were in Dubai. I mean, I got this info from the local consulate. So we need to allow financial, easy, I mean, there is a whole scheme now with the European Innovation Council to ease the funding for SMEs, but even larger companies. I mean, the key issue here is to retain talents in order to be competitive and have financial support in order to be able to grow. And what I mean financial support doesn't necessarily have to be free money. Financial support can also be banks being a little bit more open and risk-taking. I know that Basel 4 coming up is not going to, or 5, I think by now, it's not easing this up. But I mean, we have to take some risks in order to stay competitive on the coming years. And companies are willing to take that risk if they have the bag covered by the public institutions and the banks. And the public institutions should be there in order to facilitate banks and the financial system to provide the investments and even the cash needed for these companies to stay afloat and even grow. So that's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now moving to new essential skills, I want to ask you, Hassan, what are the key skills workers need to thrive in today's digital economy? I give you the floor.
We should limit ourselves to digital economy or just okay. So we talk about too much about AI and automation. So I think everyone are familiar with such words or applications. So at individual level, so we are using lots of AI-powered applications or AI-generated tools, systems, application, etc. But I try to focus on the 5.0. So when it comes to industrial, another phase of revolution, so we should be aware of, yes, there is an AI boom, but also new technologies are emerging, like quantum. So we are talking about, how to fill the European AI gap. So thanks to, the efforts to hold the European community, so they final launch an AI Act, etc. There are lots of, initiatives, efforts to foster collaborative research and development environments, funds, etc. We know everything, but we still have a gap. So we should digest some facts. So not just talk in our mouths and digest and then find concrete steps. And we are talking about, of course, regulations, ethics, or standardization, but speed, agility, adaptability is also very important. Let me give you an example. I don't want to, break your focus, but for instance, there are lots of approach from top to down, but when you try to find a way from down to top, it's very hard, sometimes impossible. For instance, we define a concept, so using such deep technologies, and couldn't find any way or easy way or faster way in Europe. Even we get some letters, extremely ambitious. How can you decide that this concept extremely ambitious? Then we engage with the U.S. authorities. We start with an email. Next day, we got a response. Please fill out these 2 pages. If you satisfy with these 2 pages, we will ask, fill out additional 8 pages. And less than 1 month, we finalize everything and start the project. The only requirement is working with the U.S. entity. So we have connection with the U.S. universities. So we engage with the aeronautical universities, developing simulation system for NASA. Then we are good to go. So we can do the similar approach in Europe. So we should, think about such how we accelerate a real innovation, how we foster this collaborative environment, and then we can turn to required skills. So we are talking about, sophisticated technologies, AI, big data, metaverse, IoT, quantum technologies. Imagine that marriage of AI and quantum technologies. So today, in the first section, we talk about data protection, privacy techniques, all the garbage. If we face a marriage of quantum technology and AI, so having quantum computing capacities and attackers, cyber attackers, let's say, state-sponsored or any hacker groups having such capabilities. So within 5 years, we will face these technologies or challenges as a real challenges. So, and then in a similar room, we are talking about how we feel this, our quantum gap, etc. So today we should invest required skill sets to, as I said, starting from the kindergarten to the postdoc level, and then we should pump up such skills and working with the industry partners to define the such requirements exactly, and then integrate with the curricula. Then we won't be we won't ask the young graduate to get such certificate, to solve such challenges, and then we can start this discussion for recruiting you. So this is a big issue for industry players. So there, we face the young talents having master degrees from very renowned universities. So they learn, of course, a lot. But when it comes to a real project-based, outcomes, or innovation. So it's not easy to work with these guys. So it requires really huge training investment during their journey in a company, if you are working with such technologies. I'm not talking about the other technologies. You can be an application developer, of course, a web developer. So there are lots of web developers. But if you
Sorry.
In a company we want to work in a quantum technologies, in quantum sensing, quantum cryptologies. So they learn almost nothing at the university level. At least we need to see that at fundamentals to, and then we can start work with these guys, and then through lifelong learning, we have learning management systems. At company, we have learning management systems. So we provide blending trainings. They are taking some courses to align with the seniors. Otherwise, it's a huge challenge. So.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we are kind of running out of time, but Joanna, I know that you are not from this panel, but maybe do you have some insight or comment that you want to share with us about this topic, maybe in the NATO experience?
Yeah, so quantum literacy is also very important in the NATO context, and we are experiencing also lack of knowledge in this area, because quantum threat is one of the most important challenges nowadays, because a threat to cryptography can compromise asymmetric algorithms and can compromise access to our computer systems and our data and integrity of our hashing algorithms and digital signatures. So this is very important nowadays, and we are transitioning to post-quantum cryptography, and also experimenting with our also other ways of delivering security, like quantum key distribution and other solutions. But also what has been mentioned, that this quantum literacy and providing this quantum literate workforce, but also knowledge to decision makers, because we don't know how these solutions can be used and what actually can be achieved with using quantum computers. And we need to prepare ourselves to use these technologies in 5 or 10 years, because quantum computers will not replace traditional computers. They will be able to solve problems that are not solvable but by the computers that we are using today. So they will be solving very difficult problems. And that's why we need to be able to experiment with them today, and to get to know what they can be used for. And this is very important. And we need to spread this knowledge. We need to experiment with them. And what NATO is doing, we are trying to get involved with industry and get to know what problems of today we can be solving, but also what the problems of the future we can be able to solve, and what threats also these technologies are imposing to us. And we actually in the agency, we're also leading one of the groups of the Science and Technology Organization of the vulnerability of quantum technologies. So we are trying to find out what vulnerabilities are related to these technologies. So what are the gaps in these technologies that can make that these technologies will not be available to us when we want to employ them. So what, for example, noises in the environment can make them make the opponents use them against us. And what are the other threat vectors that the opponents can use against us? These are very important when we use we want to use, for example, quantum sensors, when we want to use quantum key distribution and other technologies. So this research is very important if we want to use this very, very important technology in this also important applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we heard many powerful insight right now, but I ask you, the public, if you have a question, it's your moment. Just one question, so we can move forward then. No? Okay. Next, I would like to introduce Fernando Casado, Project Director of Efficace, a company that works on strategies and sustainable development. Fernando will present the Manufacturing for All project. Yes, sí.
Sí, como digáis.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Finnova, for inviting us for share with you all this presentation on our project. We have called this project Manufacturing for All, and in the aim of the Onils municipality, it was the needed they have the companies, the industrial companies of our municipality, to improve young people who come, who have the skills, the digital skills the companies need. And then we think what we can do, what we can make the companies, us to the municipalities, to the council, what we can do, we can make training for the young people who have the digital skills the companies need. And then, we start to make this project. First of all, I want to explain a little bit about about Onil. Okay, Onil, we have around 7,800 population. Okay, and we are based in the toys industry and the dolls industry. Okay, and then we have around this industry. Different auxiliary industries, okay, but all moving around the dolls and the toys industry. And also we have some metallurgic industries, but only the metallurgic industries and the auxiliary industries are the companies who need people who develop, implement different digital skills in their process, okay? And then also we have agriculture and different industries and different economic sectors. Okay. Our situation, I don't know if you know, but we are in a tourist area, but Onil is in the inside of the province of Alicante. And here, I don't know if you can show, but we have a photo of the village, and the village is smaller than the two industrial areas we have in the municipality of Onil. Okay, if you look the surface of the municipality, and the industrial areas are bigger industrial areas than the municipality. But then we need many persons to work in our companies. Okay, that is the first thing I want to tell you. This is some dates about the situation of the industries of Onil. Okay, 2 years ago we have around 550 companies, industrial companies in Onil. We focus the project in the young people between 15 until 35 years old, okay? And this was around 1,500 people. It was our target from this project. And the unemployers are around, the last month, around 14% of all the population, okay? And then we want to focus our project in all these people because we think they have a lot of digital skills, but the digital skills, and you have, around this morning, the digital skills of these young people don't be focused in the industrial needs. They are focused gaming, social media, in different ways, and then we think, okay, what we can make? Then we start to speak with different companies of our municipality, and what do you think? What we can do to make the correct training for the young people to work in your company, but work in the best works you have, in the new jobs we are going to have, and the new jobs are, you have say, Industry 4.0. And now Industry 5.0. But we must to make some structure to training these people, these young people, in the needs of the company, not in other needs. Okay, and then we speak with the companies. We have speak with different entities, the high schools, the university, the offices of the employment, and with the young people, because if our target is the young people, we must to speak with the young people and tell us. We are thinking about it. What do you think? Okay, with all this information, we develop one way with all the information we have bring of all the people of Onil, and okay, this is the information we need. This is the steps we think we must make to have the correct training to the young people, and the young people have all the information and all the correct training to develop his professional career in the industry. In the industry, focus in the digital process, okay? And this is the guy. We have finished the guy, I don't remember, around May, but we must to make a next steps, and the last steps is we have meet in Onil 3 days in June, 11, 12, and 3rd of June, and test with the young people all the information we have developed in the guy, okay? And then, well, I don't go into, you have here the things we have made that days, okay? And then we have made some workshops only speaking with the young people and saying, okay, we think you need for your professional career focus in the digital industry, in the digital focus in the Industry 4.0, 5.0. We think you need this, but what do you think about this? And then they give all the information they think, looking in the different things they can make. One I think it's very important question we make is, what do you think about the best job you can make in the future? And they, well, someone have, no, I want to work only 4 hours. I want to work 10 hours and earn a lot of money. Then, okay, we have all the opinions. And with these opinions, well, we have a lot of information, okay? And then we finish these 3 days, and we check all the guy, we finish the guy, and then we give to the council, and they say, okay, here you have a guy to make some training with the young people and to use to know what the company needs and when the young people need to her future to make his professional career, and then with all this information, you must to start to make new training days or training facilities for the young people to work in the O'Neill's company to finish his career professional in O'Neill, and also the companies have with the people of our population the solution with technical people who can develop or implement all the industry 4.0 or 5.0 or digital skills in the in O'Neill Festival. Okay, this is the conclusions of our project. I think, well, you can read it if you have any question about this. Okay, I think the most important thing is now in O'Neill we have a lot of information about our young people and also a lot of information about our companies. And then with all this information, we can make different projects or different training information for finish or for give for our young people an opportunity in the companies of our municipality. That's more or less is our project. You have all the information in the website of manufacturingforall.eu, and that is all. If you have any question.
Today they are shy. Don't waste your time. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists for their contribution. Last but not least, I would like to give the floor to Juan Manuel Revuelta for some final remarks.
Yes. Okay. I will be very short. It's true that we started late this morning at 9:30, and we should finish at 1:30, but okay. At 1. No, but I mean with the 30 minutes. But any case, we are from a logistical point of view, we are trying to organize if someone wants to eat here in the canteen, but we will know later. Anyway, it has been a very inspiring forum, these future skills, and again, we have prepared some examples and to understand the EU funding roadmap, because we are in the right time. We have a new commission. Commissioners will have their audience into the European Parliament now in November. Then I don't know when we will have all the commissioners. They are nominated, but they have to be approved from the European Commission. And then I suppose some of the financial programs will restart. In the meantime, we are in the period, in the financial period open, where we combine Next Generation, Horizon Europe, LIFE, Interreg, Erasmus, Digital Europe. Okay, a lot of different doors to knock in the fields we have been discussing today. Digitalization, new skills, that means vocational training, education, but also around the future of industry. What we are talking of course, blockchain, of course, machine learning, of course. Okay, a lot of different technologies that can help to improve that concept of reindustrialization, because after this Draghi report, that is a serious report, we should consider what's the role that Europe has to have in the field of, in this global world, and in the field of industry. And if it's not in the field with innovation and digitalization, I don't know if we will have a future industry arena in Europe. Okay, perhaps Europe we are the first destination for tourists, but okay, we should do something more. In that case, we have prepared, okay, we have some different programs that I have mentioned, like LIFE program. Just some figures, 5,300 million euros for all what is circular economy, energy efficiency, and renewable energy, and climate change. What about in industry? How with digitalization we can improve and we can reduce the emissions, or we can be more efficient in energy. Even if LIFE is not, it's a program from the DG Environment and DG Climate, and is not for industry, it's for all the sectors, okay? We have explained this morning what LIFE eco-digestion is, and this morning about how to, from the organic waste from the agro-industry, we can manage better to produce biogas with the help of infrastructure that is infra-use, that is the depuration water treatment plant. I'm pretty sure that in O'Neill you have a depuration water treatment plant, and okay, we could reuse other organic waste to produce more biogas, reducing that the dependence of the energetic sector that is especially dramatic after the war Russia-Ukraine. It's because of that there is a program, Repower Europe, for innovative storage and production of, for example, biogas. Okay, and I explained that 18,000 depuration water treatment plants that are in all over Europe. Then that it means we can use in all the territory. There are other projects that I'm not going to, but yes, in LIFE Next Fumigreen, this is another project, 2.5 million, that we are running, that we are working in offer an alternative for the chemical pesticides. Okay, what's the link with digitalization, artificial intelligence, and training? Allow me to explain that is a project that that offer an alternative with the Fumigreen, means natural fumigant, no pesticides, no chemicals. Okay, how to train farm agricultures to use this solution that saves also money? Again, we are talking, and with artificial intelligence, we can reduce the cost of the training. Okay, we have Horizon Europe, we have different projects. Now, artificial intelligence, digitalization is every place. In every place, we are talking of the twin transition, green transition and digital transition. Okay, we did last week, this is an Horizon Europe project, RES4City, that of course offers micro-accreditations and training for the people that do trainings about decarbonization in cities, in the field of wastewater, in the field of, for example, grey water, how to charge electrical vehicles, or green hydrogen. Interreg is another tool. Interreg, there are several projects that allow to exchange best practice in industrial regions about innovation. Now is open the Northwest Europe, the Interreg Sudoe, and others. Why not to work in that field? IVA is an Interreg digital project in the field of digital in agriculture. Again, digitalization in agriculture sounds so evident, but who is going to train the agriculture in how to use this tool in, for example, more energy efficiency in the irrigation or in whatever, okay? Especially interesting is the single market program. It's from the DG Grow. We have an example. It was before that called Circoax project, It's one of the projects. Is there behind. You have the website. Is one of the projects we are working more. Is in the field of sustainable fashion. Sustainable fashion. We have now 4 projects, ongoing projects. One in finance from the European Institute of Technology. We are launching and creating a new incubator in-house where, if someone here in this meeting room knows a company that provides solutions in the field of artificial intelligence or digital or digitalization to improve a better sustainable fashion, it can be nice. Especially in Alicante, they have suffered a lot with the decrease of the textile industry. When I say textile, it's not only textile includes from the European Commission perspective also the shoes, all what is around fashion. If you don't know, that's a very big problem for the management of waste of municipalities, and it's the second most pollutant industry in the world. Okay, how digitalization and artificial intelligence can work? We are just starting a project Alinvest Verde, that is called Sustainable Fashion, with the cluster of sustainability moda fashion in Peru, with the Chamber of Commerce of Bogota, and also with Finova. They will come in the next year. They will come here to Brussels to see how to exchange ideas for the small and medium enterprise companies in the field of fashion. And finally, about single market, Futurism. Okay, Futurism is a project that is financed from the European Commission, 4 million euros. We are talking of financing in cascade from the DG Grow. We try to identify the best 102 startups and scale-ups that provide digital solutions in tourism, in any tourist activity, or in the field of sustainability, circular economy, water recycling, textile waste recycling, and others. Okay, we will do the launch in this institution, in the Economic and Social Committee, next 6 November. We have opened the pre-call. Then any idea from the startups, spin-offs from the universities are more than welcome. That's other programs. We have Alinvest Verde program. That's about education, how to train the producers of coffee in Peru about circular economy, how to bring the waste to do compost. And that's it. And we would like to thank all of you, especially to the panelists and all the team that has done this possibly. Of course, to the Economic and Social Committee that has been hosting today in this very nice meeting room. From here to the people that are following us from streaming, our best regards. And let's keep in touch in the future. There are in this new commission, we have 5 years. From a financial point of view, the program is 2021-2027, but with the rule N+3, we are talking up to 2030. Then we have a clear roadmap, a lot of challenges we have been listening and this morning about ethics, moral, digitalization, automatization, artificial intelligence. We need to work together in different consortia. We have in this meeting room potential consortia. We have our colleagues from Greece here, from Italy, from Norway. Okay, thank you very much, all of you.